session. Uh, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. PNS, Kerja Kerajaan. And then with French fries, drink, burger, and rice. And it actually like Los Angeles. Many brands in Indonesia. Book that I use. Uh, the international edition of the book. if you see, for example, the ambassador of the United States, you know, in various sectors in the textbook. What is the mother or daughter? Does Oxford University Press considers aware of these changes? How teachers uh, some points that you can use to improve the quality of teaching? We have in Indonesia 4 years for undergraduate degree. And then in secondary education, they have Chinese, which is quite interesting because there are so many Saudi Arabia collaborating with China. Education and only study English as a foreign language subject for a few hours a week. They complete secondary education. Ideally, they reach advanced level of English proficiency. So when they graduate from secondary also says the same thing. It's not only the student English ability that is being questioned, but also teachers' English proficiency that is being questioned. Law or in Islamic studies or in Arabic language, we will study in Arabic too. But if we go to Saudi Arabia and then we study in engineering, fluently in the social and professional context. So if you go to Saudi Arabia and meet students who study English as a medium of instruction, students ideally can convert as a medium for open education. in the classroom if their level is this is the program that they have in the first year. Reading skills in English. In semester two, English for specific purposes. This is full in English. And then biology for computer skills and biostatistics. They are these three are for example reading the text or uh, times a week for 100 minutes in the class. And then biology is also in English. But then the question is, the students study for 16 weeks. Is it aimed at making them use the academic? Then there will be like 40 to 60 students. That means, although they are native speakers of English, English, although they are native speakers of English, because in college they need to use academic English. They need to know how to write papers. While they are studying, or after they complete all these courses, they can survive in their study in undergraduate program because mostly their courses require them to read articles, listen to lectures in English, write papers, for and reading relevant references critically and discussing what they have written to others. In the United States, the students and it depends on their interests. Their Spanish language proficiency is low. Level of proficiency in Spanish. And it's not will go after they graduate from their undergraduate program. And this is and this is very strategic. Semester 2, advanced level, semester 3. If the student least for engineers. So it needs to be relevant with the students' academic. See work here because if we study language, condition, and also to tell about something because it's repeated every single day. Four days a week, like Sunday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But if it is only one, we are teaching English to the students, and the feeling is like to, to be successful in their study. Is it in let's say, international hospital in Jakarta, then definitely beginner level, they need to repeat. We exactly know the level of the student. Learning activities and assessment tasks need to be interrelated. Fifth, the target of making sure that the student will be able to distinguish in the social and professional setting. They need to use is locally chosen with the purpose of the student who will study English. So we need to ask question, what is the objective in general? What is the objective of the course? What is the objective of the lesson? If it is not in line with the course learning outcomes, then we need to redesign the learning activities as well as assessment tasks. It happens in a lot of universities in Indonesia. Now, this is kind of support that we need. So, for example, undergraduate writing center and then Center for English and Second Language Pusat Bahasa, we have a lot in Indonesia. But writing center, so if the lecturers or students are writing papers, are preparing slides for presentation, and then they want to discuss with someone, they can go to the writing center and it's free. You bring your paper and then you ask people in the writing center, can you help me check this paper? And they will do it for you. You can just make an appointment and then you will have 30 minutes and then if fired, you continue with 30 minutes and things like that until your paper looks good, grammatically okay, and things like that. And then library support, like borrowing books, technology support, borrowing or accessing Grammarly, Turnitin, SPSS, and some other research based technology tools. And then student mentoring. So senior students help junior students, faculty member office hours, and academic advisor. I think it has been done in our context. And also positive classroom environment. And I think this is very common in our context. The classroom is like empty. There's nothing on the wall, only clock. Meanwhile, whenever we are teaching English, especially in Pusat Bahasa, in the context of Pusat Bahasa, the classroom need to be lively. The classroom need to have television. The classroom need to have library, small library in the corner. The classroom needs to have a lot of posters. So a lot of posters. So for example, the students are learning about opinion essay, argumentative essay. Then you can ask one group of students in class to write argumentative essay poster and then put it on the wall. So unintentionally, whenever they are sitting down in the classroom, they will look at the wall and then they will learn something. So the wall need to be colorful and lively because it intentionally and intentionally help the students learn. And then it also needs to be designed to allow interactive activities in the classroom. If it is like this, definitely the students will face to the board only. But if it is like designed like this, the student will communicate with their friends in the classroom. And hopefully it can also be in the target language. And extracurricular activities. And then it can also be designed to have extracurricular activities. So for example, movie club, music club, conversation table, outdoor activity, English competition, reading circle, interview project. This is one of the example whenever I studied in Arizona. So this is me at the time. This is like the teacher, and the teacher has like a list of songs that the student can sing together with other students. The teacher will bring a guitar, and then the student will have a piece of will have a booklet containing like lyrics of the songs, and then we sing together. And then it's really fun. After that we discuss about the song. What do you think about the message in this song? And then everybody will try to say something. Movie club is also fun. But then in a lot of context, in the university context, it's absent. In the context of Pusat Bahasa, it needs to be done. In the context of English department in the university, for example, program studi Bahasa Inggris, it needs to be done because the student will learn something from this activity. They are not only learning from the classroom with the lecturer, but they will also learn something from other activities in and inside the classroom, such as from movie club, music club, conversation table. So someone, a senior student can sit down on the table, and then junior students can come and then ask questions in English, practicing their conversation. Or if they're native speakers, they can also sit down on the table, and then some students will come and then practice their conversation. And then reading circle. Some students can join the club and then read a novel, and then the first meeting will read page 1 until page 10, and then discuss together after 1 week. So it will be fun for the student. And then it has also been done by uh, by some universities in the US. And then on teachers' professional development session, uh, teachers need teacher professional development session. For example, in relation to the case of the changes that happen in Saudi Arabia, for example, there's a picture of a woman in the book. Now, some teachers might ignore it. They think that it is not important, while it is very important because the students might be critical on this one. The teachers can ask the student, "What do you think about this one? Why is there any picture of woman in the book? Do you agree with this? If you agree, tell me. If you don't agree, tell me." And then after that, the teachers can tell that uh, this is similar, or this is in line with Saudi Vision 2030, where women have rights politically and socially and professionally. They can drive, they can have political position, and then they can achieve whatever they want to achieve professionally, and also in some other contexts. So it needs to be designed seriously and carefully, and it needs to be done continuously. So sometimes there are some universities like Pusat Bahasa and also English department that does teacher professional development only once in semester. It's not. It should be once a week or uh, twice a month, or let's say there will be like two teacher professional development sessions a month. I was glad at that time when I was in ONS. It's done like twice a month, and then we invite a lot of scholars from some other countries, which is really, really nice. Now, there is also a question on the teaching and learning material. I'm using these two theories, Funds of Knowledge by Dr. Louis Moll, and also uh, Culturally Sustaining Pedagogies by Django Paris and Sami Ali. The question that can be addressed here is that how to make the teaching and learning materials culturally responsive or relevant for the students. After this, I will try to solve a very interesting example. How to make the teaching and learning materials help students to reach their goals of learning the language. How to make the teaching and learning materials help students in their study, social life, and professional life. Now, one day, one of my students in ONS met me, and then he told me like this, Pak Rian, one of my students at school told me that the materials that I'm teaching in the classroom is not the English that she needs. So she told me the background story. the students did PPL in a pharmacy. So my student, Mas Arkan, taught in SMK Pharmacy, SMK Pharmacy. And then he is teaching English. He taught English at that time. I think he's not in that school anymore. He was teaching English in that school. And then he taught general English, basically. And then after that, the student went to the PPL. And then when the student came back to the school, the student told Mahardan, Pardon, it's not the English that I need. One day, there was a foreigner coming to the pharmacy and then asked me about the ingredient of the medicine, the side effect of the medicine, and then etc. etc. Including they asked about jamu, the herbs. And then I don't know about the languages because we don't study this in the classroom. If we take a look at this one, definitely there is a question here about the relevance of the teaching material with what the students are doing professionally. The students need to learn about the medicine sold in the pharmacies, in the pharmacy. If it is the pharmacy in Indonesia, definitely we are talking about jamu. We are talking about uh, we are talking about the generic medicine. We are talking about um, we are talking about the uh, the prescription for doctors and things like that. They need to know the languages used in the pharmacy because probably in one time or two times there will be foreigners that don't speak Bahasa Indonesia and they need to consume English. And if the students don't know that, if the students only know how are you, who are you, where are you from, Mister, that will be dangerous because they need to use the language professionally in their professional context, in this case, pharmacy. And that is why it becomes a study, which is very, very interesting. And the question is that what do the students need to study? Definitely English for pharmacists. English for pharmacists because this is the English that they need. And then it also needs to be localized. To be localized. The languages need to be, we need to understand whatever is needed by pharmacists in Indonesia. Because probably the pharmacists in Indonesia will be different from the pharmacists in the US. What the items that are sold in the pharmacy in Indonesia will be different from the items that are sold in the US, for example. And that is why they need to learn each of these things. Um, and then the research on textbook analysis also were very excellent because they studied about moral values. So especially if the book is imported, let's say we take Longman, Cambridge, Oxford, mostly they are talking about the values of it's full of international values. It doesn't really cover the local values of Indonesia, for example. It talks about Halloween. It doesn't talk about Idul Fitri in the book. It doesn't talk about the things that are close with the life of the student. Ideological values, multicultural values, gender representation, human nature relationship, and many other things. So, in other words, the materials need to be culturally relevant, need to be locally relevant with the life of the students. If they are not relevant, or if it is not available in the textbook, what should we do? Supplement it with relevant materials with the life of the student. Now, this will be the last slide. So what is the takeaway points from here? There is a need to continuously question why students learn English and whether the course that we design is relevant for their objective. If we are teaching English at the university level in Indonesia, for example, and then we are trying to help students to use English whenever they become lawyers, whenever they become economists, whenever they become teachers, whenever they become um, engineers. We need to teach them the relevant materials that they will use in the professional context. This is not awful things. this is not TOEFL strategies because they will not be used in their professional context. TOEFL will be used as the entry requirement whenever you apply for graduate school in the US, in the UK, in the Europe, and in some other countries. And it's not used in the professional life. What the English that they need is the English that they will use in their professional context. Number two, ensure that the teaching and learning materials are culturally responsive and relevant. The English that they need needs to be relevant with their context. So, for example, if I teach English here for medical students here, definitely there will be like some points that will try to be adjusted. The pictures that will be used in the book, the text, the name, and then how to address. And then there are also some cultural points that need to be carefully considered whenever we are teaching the students. It needs to be culturally responsive and relevant. Number three, we need to support students and teachers inside and outside the classroom. For teachers, they need continuous teacher professional development session so that they will be updated with the new changes uh, in uh, in their field as well as the new changes in policies in a certain context. For example, in the case of Saudi Arabia, the changes in the social life, and also the students need to be supported. They don't only study in the classroom but also outside of the classroom. They need to be study. They need to study intensively. They don't study only once a week because the goal cannot be reached if they only study for once a week. All right. So I think that's all. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward for the discussion with all of
Okay, thank you so much, Christian. Well, that was a very outstanding way of focus, especially for English teacher or educators. Christian has given us about factual information today in Saudi Arabia, and also how English is implemented in Saudi Arabia. That was very outstanding how the Arab Saudi Arabia and implement in this uh, organs to their needs. So we can also discuss as much as an educator uh, that have been provided their learning material the students perform tests or such, such kind of test math test that is very interesting. Now we have online kan. Kalau mau disampaikan, silakan buatin bertanya. Hello. Oh, bisa di unmute ya sebentar. Bisa di unmute. Sudah ya.
Okay.
Silakan buatin.
Thank you so much for the chance. First of all, I would like to share my experience. Very good. I used to teach at junior high school and get job. Um, that in Indonesian universities, they tend to have their own standardized English. Like in UNS, we have AP. In UIN, our campus, we have also English educator or English teacher, they are trapped in the grammar things. Like when my daughter, she is in elementary school, like in the lesson, this phenomena that many English teachers, English educators in Indonesia are trapped in grammar things. Thank you so much. Thank you, Paal.
Okay, if yeah, you want to answer it directly or uh,
Also, Indonesian TOEFL is usually used as entry requirement. It's not used as an exit requirement. And the question is that why do we need that? Is it to say to the world or say to the people that the student who graduate from universities in Indonesia, or let's say the students who graduate from our campus that has at least 450 or at least 500 in TOEFL, and that means they are fluent in English. But the question is it the guarantee that they are fluent in English? Now, I feel that it's done to cover or to hide the reality that the program that we have is with. If we really aim to make the students able to speak English fluently, then we need to redesign the teaching of English at the university. In this case, the model that I have shown you earlier, like from the United States, whenever the students study Spanish, Chinese, Mandarin, French, Arabic, or German, they need to study 4 semesters. First semester, beginner, second semester, intermediate, fourth semester, advanced level. And if uh, they need it for their professional life, then they need to add 1 more semester to study English for specific purposes. Why ESP in the last part, or let's say in semester 4 or semester 5? Because they need to reach advanced level or upper intermediate level because before they study English for specific purposes. And then in our context, it's not. The students study English for 1 semester, and then we don't know really the the outcome. And then after that, in the second semester, the students study EST or mata kuliah bahasa Inggris profesi. And then same time, the students who study bahasa Inggris profesi, they are still in beginner level. Imagine if you teach beginner level and then you ask the beginner level explain about how to fix broken car in complicated language. That's impossible. And that is why they need to be fluent in English first, and then after that you teach ESP. And if if I am the one who is who has an authority to change, that will be the first thing I will change. And and I will try to say that if the student follow that process, semester one, semester two, semester, they don't need standardized tests. They don't need standardized tests because if they study already until advanced level, that means their English is advanced already. Now, the question is that if you achieve 500 in TOEFL like test or TOEFL, or let's say TOEFL ITP, is it a guarantee that you can speak English well? Not necessarily, because you remember strategies of how to do TOEFL test, and that has been proven by a lot of studies. You achieve 500, but you spoke in English, speaker. And that's really like the question: what is the goal of the teaching of English in higher education institution in Indonesia? We need to redesign it, and that's my on that one. On the second one, this is true that the teachers in junior high school, one teacher in the past, communication ability, reading or writing. So because of that, the teachers follow the strategies that uh, the teachers study. Because the students need to pass the test. And then at the end of the day, the teachers focus on LKS. The teachers focus on the strategies, see, on the teaching strategies to do test, on making sure that the students grade well. That's, that is, whenever they are in grade 12 or grade 9, they teach in Bahasa Indonesia, then they focus on international examination, every day. The quality of the exam. We really need to go back again to the objective of the teaching of English. It needs so communication is about the teaching, about the institution itself. The students to do the same. But if it is aimed at measuring whether the students are able to use English orally and communicate in the written form, then they will do it. Then the teachers will do will go to the different direction. They will focus on making sure the student able to communicate as well as to express the idea not just learn. Because the learning is as separate
Okay, thank you, again for sir. Yeah, that's opening our horizon about the policy field. So, have another perspective. Oke, mungkin dari Bapak Ibu ada yang mau bertanya yang dari lokasi, mungkin ada yang ditanyakan, silahkan bisa bertanya. Jadi, uh, dari selalu lihat PhD dan of English have already existed in this world, like Singaporean English or Chinese English, and etc. Yeah, that's all my question. Thank you very much, Mr. Christian. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi
I'm not really sure, but that's the title of the book, Indonesian Englishes. So that is to say, um, it's not only Singaporean Englishes, it's not only Japanese Englishes, it's not only American Englishes, but there is also Indonesian Englishes. Now, uh, if you ask me about the ideas of research, definitely there are a lot. Like for example, if you look at a book, a textbook in Indonesia that we are using, for example, and then we try to see or we try to analyze. Uh, so far, it focuses on gender representation. It focuses on moral values. It focuses on multicultural values, but it has never discussed about uh, the Englishes used in the textbook that we are using in Indonesia. So, for example, let's say in the listening materials, in the textbook, let's say we have 12 listening materials. Are they focusing only on British English? Or do they mix British English, American English, Singapore English, or even English? Um, do not only contain British English, Australian English, and also American English, but also contain the Englishes that are used in different parts of the world. Uh, that's number one. Number two, uh, recently I worked also with my students to look at the relevance of the ST materials taught at ONS. So I asked my students to take a look at different textbooks used by lecturers teaching English relevance. of the textbook that they are using for the students. And then it also take a look at the student perspective and then the lecturer's perspective and also analyzing the textbook content itself. And then we will try to see because mostly the lecturers and the shortcuts, they don't want to design the textbook, but there are some lecturers who are very, very creative. They they wrote that book themselves, and then it's relevant with the majors that they are teaching. I know, for example, Prihadyati, who's teaching, I forgot, but this one is like, and then it's very relevant with the need of the students. But then in other programs, they use TOEFL, and then they they focus on IELTS, for example, that is not relevant with what the students do. I think that's also one of the examples, Mas Arif. Other than that, I think uh, definitely there are a lot of examples that done by other sectors. Great, thank you for giving this answer. Calling me Johnson is fine. The audience ya mungkin yang di studio dan yang ditanyakan kepada manusia yang mau streaming langsung internasional dari mana-mana. Uh, I see one question at the top. Yes. Oh yeah. Okay. So probably there's a good example that I know at first Mas Idani or Badan and go with the students. The students in my class study English, uh, study English, and sometimes I also this is based on the reflections in the past and the materials that I learned. I'm not really interested. I'm not really relevant. I started the class telling them telling them like this. Something is so I share the poster or the picture of the movie on the slide in the class, and it was very interesting. And then next Monday I share another movie again, and then I told them about the movie. Next Monday I do that again, and then I tell them about the story of the movie. And guess what the students do in the fourth week? That they raise their hand and they told me, but yeah, this weekend I watched this movie, and then they take about the movie that they watched. And I asked them, did you watch the movie in English? Yes, I did. Awesome. And then after that, you can go ahead. Whenever you watch the movie in English, use the subtitle in English. Do not change it to English because you need to get accustomed to the word, the vocabulary in English. And this is called extensive listening and extensive watching. And then in other classes, I did the same. But this is not about movies. I use novel. I use novel. And I read novel. And then after that, I kept telling the student about the content of the novel. I read this novel, and this novel is very interesting. It talks about blah 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 blah. The setting is in Afghanistan. It talks about a man and woman getting married, and then there's an abuse in the family and something like that. And then in the next week, I brought another novel, and then I read the novel. I tell the student the story in the novel. In the fourth week, it's the same. The students told me, But yeah, I went to bookstore and then I bought the novel and then I started reading this novel. It's very interesting. Let me tell you the story, something like that. So that is called intensive reading. So if you find something that is um, like in this scenario that the materials are not really engaging or interesting, it's our task to make it interesting. But then the truth is that the students do not only study in the classroom; they need to study outside the classroom. But we need to inspire them to do something. In my example, the student watch movies in English, the student read novels in English, and then after that you tell me the stories about this in English. And then after that, you can spend like 10 to 15 minutes in the classroom to share each other about the novels or the movies that you have watched or they have watched. And then after that, you continue with the lessons in the classroom. Definitely, if we talk about the the content of the curriculum that we have in the university level, it's like one paragraph only, and sometimes it's like very uh, short, and then it made in a mess. I did it. I did it in the past. Why not? And and the materials need to be relevant, and then you need to design it very carefully. But then, uh, other than that, you also need to equip them or equip the students to use English outside the classroom context. And that's one of the examples that probably we can also do. And that also can be the thing that you can do with your private for student, like asking for it, asking or her to watch movies or to read novels, and then after that, whenever you meet, you can discuss this thing with him or her, and if they're looking already the practice, reading practice, listening practice, and then after that, if they have done a lot of input, they will tell it, and that is like protection by using the language to communicate ideas that they have done on this ability to have and correct and and I think we can do that because because this type of
That's enough for me. Thank you so much for the audience, online and offline. And thank you so much for the attention. Thank you so much for the time and the chances because it's good thing. The material is very simple, and the hand is much like that.
Terima kasih and everybody.
Thank you, Pak. Yeah.
Baik, demikian tadi pemaparan materi dari narasumber kedua kita. Terima kasih disampaikan kepada Bapak Christian Adi Putra, PhD, atas ilmu yang bermanfaat. Dan terima kasih disampaikan kepada Bapak Muh Hussein Al-Fatah, MPD, selaku moderator kita. Apresiasi setinggi-tingginya juga kami haturkan kepada seluruh peserta, tamu undangan, dan presenter yang penuh semangat menghadiri acara ICCL dari pagi hingga sore hari ini, baik yang luring maupun daring. Marilah kita tutup acara pada hari ini dengan bacaan hamdalah bersama-sama. Saya mewakili panitia mohon undur diri dan tidak lupa saya mengingatkan untuk segenap peserta baik presenter online maupun offline, besok kita akan bertemu kembali melalui virtual Zoom dan ruang Meet yang sama di pukul jam 7.30 waktu Indonesia bagian Barat. Baik, akhirul kalam. Billahi taufik wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
So what is ClickUp? ClickUp is an all-in-one productivity.